But nonetheless, when it comes to Justin Fields, a lot of people in the first couple of plays, people thought, oh, they started panicking like they always do in every game. It always seems like the first drive never goes our way for Pittsburgh, and that's okay. It didn't go our way in the first drive, and everyone was like, oh no, oh no, in shambles. And the thing is it takes time. You just got to wait and see what happens. And sure enough, things ended up starting to go our way. I will say the one thing that needs to be mentioned is in the game, two factors did occur. Number one, Justin Herbert did get hurt, and Joey Bosa was also or not which Bosa. It's not which Bosa.
You heard a lot of people in that game.
No, Joey Bosa hurt himself.
Bosa was already injured, but you hurt my man Joe Alt.
Okay, Alt also was holding TJ Watt because
he hurt Rashawn Slater, who I think may have already been beat up.
Yeah, Justin Herbert, when he got sacked, also Cam Hayward just it was a half sack. So Cam Hayward came in on his left side. So when he came on his left side, the sack was already going down. I want to say it was Watt, but for another part of me doesn't want to say it was Watt that was good. I think it was Watt that got the other half sack on the right. And he got the half sack, and Cam Hayward came in at the end and landed on his ankle. It was, or his leg or whatever. So it retweaked his injury or whatever he's nursing down his leg. But none of them were like, oh man, yeah, that was dirty or something like that happened. I didn't even know some of these guys got hurt. Like, for example, I didn't even know Joe Alt got hurt. The only time that I really noticed anything happening with Alt was the fact that he would hold TJ Watt, and they got kind of penalized a lot at points. But I will say I think having Justin Herbert not be able to play in the second half helped the team continue forward. Not that we weren't already doing well with Justin Herbert in the first half, but I think it pretty much helped us seal the deal. I mean, they didn't score again after the first half. They only scored 10 points, and that was it. And Justin Herbert went to the sideline. Taylor Heineke went in, and Steelers defense ran away with it when it came to that. But when it comes to Pittsburgh as a whole, when it comes to Justin Fields looked so much better than he did in the first 2 weeks. I had known that a lot of people were saying, well, we want to see some touchdowns. We want to see some things going. And although it still wasn't that high scoring of a game, Justin Fields did get 2 touchdowns. He had a rushing touchdown, and he had a touchdown that he threw. And I think that it really helps knowing that on top of that one touchdown that he had was to Calvin Austin III, who really shouldn't even be in the wide receiver conversation. As you mentioned, Josh, earlier in the season, before the season even began, Calvin Austin III is not somebody that should be a wide receiver 2 or a wide receiver 3. But man, did he pop off yesterday, or 2 days ago, I guess at this point, it's Tuesday. He had that 55-yard touchdown. Justin Fields really threaded the needle in that play, and it really helped put a perspective on what Justin Fields can do and what Calvin Austin III can do. Considering Van Jefferson was hurt a little bit, he tweaked himself. I believe they said he poked his eye or something, and he might be nursing an injury as well. Another wide receiver that looked pretty decent was Scotty Miller, who I thought
Scotty Miller.
He looked pretty good. I think he looked good on some of the plays. He also had, I don't remember how many catches he had, but I remember the one play he did have a really good catch and a really good run. And I'm excited to see what he does, considering there's like a whole wide receiver, like above like an average wide receiver room that we're working with. You got George Pickens, and then underneath him, you're going to have Roman Wilson, Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin III, and Scotty Wilson, Scotty Miller. My bad.
Put some respect on that. He is a Super Bowl champion.
Yeah, I know. And Huntley is also a all-star. I hear that all the time. So yeah, but more or less, it was really refreshing watching the Steelers game and seeing like a pretty competent offense. Justin Fields did have an interception, but the interception, although I do blame on him, also might not have been an interception, because the way that it happened, was he threw it and it bounced up in the air and went airborne and like bounced off of another guy, and then Bud Dupree caught it for the interception.
So it got tipped.
It got tipped to the point where it flew up. Okay. So had it just went down, or if it got tipped, it could have also went down. But the way that it happened, it's really hard to explain if you didn't watch the game. But although it was a bad call by Fields to throw it into the coverage that he did, I also think that interception may or may not have happened had it, been in any other sort of direction, or had he thrown it like a second later or something like that. It was just a weird circumstance. I'm not going to defend him for that, because obviously it was an interception and marks are still marks on your overall record when it comes to that. But I didn't think that he played bad, and I don't think that interception should really mark how well he played in the game. I think Justin Fields looked really good. I think the offense looked pretty good. I'm interested to see what they do with Warren, though. Warren is also nursing an injury now. Kind of concerned, though, because they're not really using him, but they are using Cordell Patterson. And honestly, I don't think Patterson is that guy that we would need as a running back too. But I am surprised with Cordell Patterson, because Cordell Patterson is getting the job done when it comes to certain things. He went right up the middle and got us a first down in a pretty crucial fourth quarter moment. So I think that he is a very big part of the offense. I just didn't expect his role is very different than how it was with Warren and Najee last year. It's a very different role. And I don't know if it's necessarily the piece that we would need, but I mean, if it's the piece that helps, it might as well. But I'm just curious to see. I mean, I really liked everything. I mean, obviously the defense is unbelievable. Looks like Dante Jackson's still nursing an injury. He just seems to get hurt every single week. And so it kind of concerns me with him. But everybody else looks great. Highsmith also apparently is nursing a groin injury, but that is also nothing to be concerned of, because you have Herbig, and Herbig also looked great. And yeah, so I'm really not worried about this team. This team has a lot of very good defensive depth. Offense is just kind of there. The line is a little bit troubling, but just like we saw on Sunday, even with the Chargers, who they kind of said on the the announcers both kind of mentioned that these two teams, the Chargers and Steelers, are almost like spitting images of each other. They have, decent quarterbacks. I mean, Justin Herbert's always been put in like in a league above per se Justin Fields, but I feel like in times he doesn't produce as much as some of those top tiers, like your Lamars, your Patrick Mahomes, where he should be at. The wide receivers in LA are decent. I mean, you've got Ladd, Quentin Johnson, you got Joshua Palmer. I mean, they're all right. And then you got this, and when it comes to Steelers, you have George Pickens, and then Calvin Austin, the third, Roman Wilson, Van Jefferson kind of falls off a little bit. Your running back game over in LA, you've got J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. If I don't even know if he's healthy right now, and then over in Pittsburgh, you have Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren, and then your defense is just really, really good. You both have a crazy edge rusher and just like a solid defense. And the way that Harbaugh runs his offense, or the way that Harbaugh runs his team, it's very defensive oriented. And I feel like right now the Steelers are running a very defensively heavy oriented team, just very relying on the defense a lot. So these two teams were very big spitting images of each other. So in my opinion, it was like really cool to see Pittsburgh kind of come out on top when it came to that situation. It looked like we did well, because the Chargers were going to be our biggest threat. Everyone was like, oh, it's Atlanta, and then it's Denver, and then the real one was going to be LA. And as time moves on, I mean, the way we've looked is impressive, and the teams that we have to play coming up, I feel like it brings you a little bit more confidence as a Steelers fan going up against some of these teams coming up in October and whatnot. So
I got two questions here for you.
Go
First
ahead.
one, are you a little disappointed by this rookie class at all? Because I know Fayutanu, he's been injured. Roman Wilson obviously hasn't even started yet. I think Peyton Smith has been beat up. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is I would say that I am a little disappointed, just because nothing has really come of these rookies, but it is really still early. I really think that Roman Wilson will have a spot in the team and might really come into his own, because the way that they kind of described him throughout the 2024 draft, and after we picked him up, people were saying that he could be the steal of the draft, one of the steals, just because he's one of those wide receivers that he's not necessarily like a George Pickens who makes like these immaculate catches or something like that, but he definitely has a magnet for the ball. Best way, I guess, to describe it for like a Pittsburgh terms, my dad kind of described it as Roman Wilson was kind of described as like a Hines Ward, where he always seems to get the ball. He's not going to make like incredible George Pickens one-handed grab snags, but he's going to make he's going to make the plays and he's going to make them happen. And if Roman Wilson actually is as good as they predict him to be, then I wouldn't be necessarily worried. But obviously I haven't seen Roman Wilson play at all. He hasn't played in the preseason or anything, but apparently he is supposed to be coming back. If not next week, like this coming game against the Colts, should be back by the Cowboys game, I'd assume. Fayetanu, it's very disappointing. A lot of like the line and whatnot, they've been injured. I wouldn't say that I'm like disappointed. I mean, it's just a little early to really say if I'm disappointed or not. It's only week 3. It's disappointing that Fayetanu gets hurt. It's disappointing that players get hurt and whatnot. But before we like jump the gun or anything like that, I'm not going to say too much on it, because somebody like, for example, in Baltimore with like initially J.K. Dobbins, if you were talking about drafting J.K. Dobbins, you're like, oh, or would you be disappointed with that class, like your draft class? I would say as a Ravens fan, if I was a Ravens fan, yeah, I would be disappointed, because J.K. Dobbins has been hurt the last 2 seasons, and he's supposed to be this generational running back that we were supposed to have to help us. And now he's doing pretty decently over in LA. But point being is, I think it's a little too soon.
Okay. And then next, just real quick, I don't know if you saw, but Derwin James Jr. got suspended for 1 game for a hit that he had on Pat Freiermuth during the Steelers-Chargers game.
Mm-hmm.
He reportedly had also had multiple repeated violations in the past as well,
yes,
against player safety rules, and that contributed to his suspension. Did you think that hit during the game, like when you were watching, were you like, oh yeah, that's worth a suspension? Or what was your like instant reaction to that?
I honestly, if I'm gonna be honest, I didn't have a reaction, because I didn't even see it really, because it happened and I was just like, oh, nice, Patrick Freiermuth got the first down, and that was it. That was literally it. I didn't notice really anything dirty until after people started talking about it, and even then, I feel like it was questionable. Obviously, he kind of leaned in with his head a little bit on the play, but I don't think Freiermuth got shook up or anything over it. And I mean, it didn't look like it was like a helmet to helmet type thing. It looked like more of like him leaning in with his head into his chest. And I feel like that's more dangerous for Derwin James. And with what we've seen with like a Ryan Shazier situation, where you lean in with your head, you tackle wrong, and next thing you know, you're paralyzed for the rest of your life. Well, I guess not for the rest of your life, but for a decent bit of time. And I personally, whenever I was watching the game, I didn't notice it. I was more just excited with how the offense was moving. But I saw it later on. One of my friends said that he thought it was targeting. Another one of my friends said that he didn't even think it should have been. But under the circumstances, with Derwin James having a record, like a track record of these violations, I wouldn't be surprised of him getting suspended, because if you have a track record of it, obviously the NFL is going to be eyeing for you more. And they obviously know that if you're a repeat offender of said rules, that, even if it doesn't look like you were intending to do it, the NFL might be like, well, no, you can say that you weren't intending to do it, but you've done it 5 other times. And now this time it looks a little questionable. We're going to suspend you again. And honestly, I can see where the NFL is coming with that. I mean, there's a lot of players when it comes to NHL and other sports that abuse these different rules and whatnot and get crazy suspensions. I remember Tom Wilson for the Washington Capitals, got suspended for almost half a year he had some ridiculous stuff that he used to do, but for even some smaller stuff, he would get suspended for multiple games and whatnot. I think at the end of the day, the NFL is just trying to stop all of the issues when it comes to injuries in different circumstances like that, especially with targeting. But I didn't see any sort of like specific targeting. I mean, like you put that clip against like a clip like Vontaze Burfict and AB, I'm going to say, yeah, that's targeting. Vontaze Burfict should be booted from the league. This guy, I didn't notice it too much. Like I said, I thought it was a relatively good game. I feel like I didn't really notice any issues, but yeah, I didn't really notice it until Twitter started making a deal about it.
You Steelers fans love to bring up that play as much as possible.
Hey, you ruined Antonio Brown. That was your fault.